The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the sound of cruel laughter. The aliens dragged the small girl across the rocky ground. She was only 11 years old, her face pale from pain, her leg injured and bleeding. She did not cry out. She bit her lip, holding back tears that threatened to fall. The aliens enjoyed her suffering. Their tall, thin bodies shimmered under the cold moonlight. Their glowing eyes flashed with malice as they mocked her weakness. One of them pushed her forward with the tip of a spear, and she stumbled to the edge of a wide valley. Far below the valley floor, a cave mouth yawned open like a hungry beast. The air trembled with deep growls rising from its depths. The girl heard the sound and froze, her small body shaking, but she forced herself to stand straight. The aliens gathered in a circle, their voices echoing with cruel delight. "Look at her! Weak human child! She will not last a breath! Throw her in! The dragon needs its offering!" Their words cut her heart like blades, but she lifted her chin. Even at 11 years old, she carried the pride of humanity. She refused to let them see her fear. The sky darkened as the earth trembled. Dust lifted into the air. The sound of wings struck the valley like thunder. The dragon was waking. The aliens shoved the girl to the ground. She cried out as sharp stones cut her skin, but she pressed her hands into the dirt and pushed herself up again. Her small hands trembled, yet she faced the cave with wide, determined eyes. The ground split with a roar. The dragon stepped into the open. It was vast, larger than the tallest towers the aliens had built. Its scales shone like molten metal, glowing with the fire inside. Its wings stretched, blocking the light of the stars. Its eyes blazed gold, burning with ancient hunger. The aliens cheered. They clapped their hands and laughed, waiting for the beast to strike. To them, this was entertainment. A weak human child, broken and helpless, about to be torn apart by the guardian of the valley. The girl's chest rose and fell in rapid breaths. Her voice shook, but she whispered into the night. "Please, not like this!" The dragon lowered its head. The heat of its breath swept across her face, warm and suffocating. Her hair lifted with the force of it. The crowd leaned closer, their laughter growing louder, crueler. They waited for the fire that would end her life. But no fire came. The dragon's eyes studied her. Its gaze lingered on the child who did not crawl away, who did not beg for mercy. She stood, weak but unbroken. The dragon's deep growl filled the valley. The laughter of the aliens faltered, replaced by silence. The girl pressed a trembling hand against her chest. Her heart pounded as she whispered again. "I am not afraid of you." The dragon tilted its massive head. Instead of snapping its jaws, it spread one wing wide. With a single motion, it shielded her from the aliens. The ground shook as its tail curled around her like a wall of living stone. The aliens gasped. Their mocking grins vanished. Confusion spread through their ranks. This had never happened before. No offering had ever been spared. The dragon let out a roar that split the night. Fire lit the sky, but it did not fall on the girl. Instead, the flames streaked over the aliens, forcing them back. Their laughter turned to screams of fear. The girl's legs gave way beneath her. She fell to her knees, staring up at the beast in awe. Its golden eyes glowed with something more than hunger. Something older. Something she could not yet understand. The aliens began to whisper in panic. "This is wrong. The beast has chosen her. She is no sacrifice. She is a curse." Fear rippled through the crowd. They backed away, no longer laughing. Their voices trembled with uncertainty. The dragon lowered its head again, close enough that the girl could feel the heat of its scales. She lifted her hand, hesitating only a moment before pressing it against the side of its jaw. The scales were hard, yet warm, alive with power. Her voice was faint, but steady. "Thank you?" The dragon did not speak, but its growl softened. The valley was silent, the air thick with the weight of something new. The bond between human and dragon had begun. The aliens could not accept it. Their leader raised his weapon and shouted, "She must die! The dragon must die with her! This is against our law!" The crowd cried out, torn between fear and fury. But the dragon spread its wings wide, its roar louder than thunder. Dust and fire filled the sky, driving the aliens back once more. The girl remained beneath its shadow, her heart racing, her eyes wide with wonder. She had been thrown as a sacrifice, mocked as worthless. Yet now, she stood as the one the dragon chose to protect. The night ended not with her death, but with the beginning of a secret that would change everything. The valley was still trembling after the roar. Smoke hung in the air. The aliens who had mocked the girl moments before now stepped back in fear. None of them dared move closer. Their eyes glowed with rage, but their bodies shook with doubt. The girl knelt on the ground, her injured legs stiff with pain. She stared up at the great dragon, her small hands still resting on its warm scales. She could not believe she was still alive. She had expected fire, teeth, and death. Instead, she felt only heat and a strange sense of safety. The dragon bent lower, so close that his breath ruffled her hair. His golden eyes searched her face. There was no hunger there, no desire to destroy. The child's courage, her refusal to beg, had stirred something deep inside him. The aliens shouted from the shadows. "Beasts, do your duty. Take the sacrifice. Crush her, burn her, end this shame." Their voices echoed, sharp and angry, but the dragon did not obey. His tail swept the ground, cutting a deep mark into the dirt. His massive body shifted until he stood fully between the girl and the aliens. His wings rose like walls of fire-lit stone. The child felt the air around her change. She pressed her hand harder against his scales and whispered again, her voice soft but clear. "You will not hurt me. I know." Her words carried no fear. Instead, they carried trust. For a moment, even the aliens fell silent, confused by her courage. The dragon made a sound unlike any roar. It was lower, softer, like thunder rolling far away. He lowered his head until his snout touched the ground near her feet. His choice was clear. He would protect her. The aliens erupted in fury. Their leader stepped forward, his weapon raised high. "This is betrayal. This human is nothing. The dragon must not choose her." But the beast did not move. Fire flickered in his throat, and the earth glowed under his breath. The leader hesitated. Even he feared the wrath of such a creature. The girl lifted her face, her eyes shining with tears she could no longer hold back. She whispered again, her small voice breaking the heavy silence. "Why me? Why would you save me?" The dragon tilted his head. Of course, he gave no words. Yet in his gaze there was something the girl felt deep inside her heart. It was recognition. It was choice. The aliens began to murmur. "This is a sign. The beast rejects us. It has chosen her. This cannot be allowed." Fear spread among them, but so did hatred. Their hands tightened on their weapons. Their eyes burned with the thought of killing not only the girl, but the dragon as well. The dragon sensed their intent. His chest rose, fire swirling within. With a single roar he blasted flames into the air, the light turning night into day. The aliens stumbled back, covering their faces from the heat. The girl used the moment to crawl closer to his massive foreleg. She leaned against the warm scales, exhausted but safe in his shadow. Her body trembled, yet she felt stronger near him than she ever had before. The aliens tried to regroup, their leader shouting orders, but fear kept them at a distance. The dragon's fire was too fierce, his power too great. None dared make the first strike. The girl looked up at the beast, her voice weak but steady. "I will not leave you. If you chose me, I will stay." The dragon closed his eyes for a brief moment. The ground rumbled as if the earth itself answered her words. The aliens finally began to retreat. Some still cursed, some still promised revenge, but none dared challenge the dragon again that night. Their leader lowered his weapon slowly, fury twisting his face. "This is not the end. The human child and the beast will both fall. We will return." His words echoed across the valley as the aliens vanished into the dark. The girl sagged against the dragon's leg, too weak to stand. The pain in her injured leg grew heavier, and her vision blurred. Still, she whispered once more before sleep claimed her. "Thank you for saving me." The dragon lowered his head and curled his body around her like a fortress. His golden eyes watched the night, never closing, never blinking. For the first time in centuries, he had chosen to protect instead of destroy. The sacrifice had failed. The legend of the valley had changed. And with it, the fate of both human and alien would never be the same. The night faded into morning. Pale light touched the valley, but the dragon had not moved. His body stood like a wall around the small human girl. She slept pressed against his warm scales, her breath soft and uneven. When she opened her eyes, she expected to see the aliens. She expected spears, cruel laughter, and fire. Instead, she saw only the dragon's golden gaze watching her carefully. She blinked, her heart trembling, unsure if she was still dreaming. The dragon lowered his head. His breath washed over her face. It was hot, but not painful. She pushed herself up, her hands shaking, and whispered softly, "You are still here." The dragon gave a low rumble, deep and steady, like the earth itself replying to her words. Then he turned toward the cave. His massive claws dug into the soil as he moved. With one motion of his wing, he pushed the girl gently forward. She understood. He wanted her to follow. Her leg hurt with every step, but she forced herself to walk. She leaned on the cave wall when the pain grew sharp. The dragon slowed his pace, watching her with careful eyes, as if guarding her every move. The cave opened wider the deeper they went. It was not dark as she expected. Crystals lined the walls, glowing softly in shades of blue and gold. The light reflected across the dragon's scales, making him shine like living fire. The girl's eyes widened in wonder. "It is beautiful," she whispered. The dragon's growl echoed through the chamber, softer than before. He led her to a pool of water glowing with faint light. She knelt beside it, her reflection shining with strange ripples of color. Her wounds ached, but when she touched the water, warmth spread through her body. Slowly, the pain in her leg lessened. She looked at the dragon, eyes wide with disbelief. "You are helping me heal." The dragon lowered his head beside her, his scales brushing against the edge of the pool. Fire flickered faintly from his chest, not in rage, but in rhythm with her breath. She reached out again and placed her hand on his snout. His skin was hard and rough, yet beneath it she felt something alive, powerful, and steady. Her lips trembled as she spoke. "You are not a monster. They were wrong." For the first time, the dragon closed his eyes. It was as if her words touched a wound deeper than flesh. The girl sat beside him for hours, resting and watching the crystals glow. At times she spoke softly, telling him about her world, her people, and her dreams. She told him she wanted to be strong, not just for herself, but for others who could not fight back. Her voice shook with emotion, but she did not stop. The dragon listened. He never spoke, yet his silence was not empty. His heavy breaths, the flicker of fire in his chest, the way his tail curled closer around her, all of it answered her heart. When she grew tired, she leaned against his massive foreleg. She felt safe there, as if no harm could reach her. She whispered one last thought before her eyes closed. "If you chose me, I will choose you too." The dragon watched her until she fell asleep. His eyes glowed softly in the crystal light. He had guarded this cave for centuries, alone and feared. Yet in one night, a fragile human child had broken through the wall around his heart. The bond had begun. But beyond the cave, the aliens were not silent. They gathered in anger, their leaders speaking of curses and danger. They had seen the dragon's choice. They could not allow it. In the shadows of the valley, plans were already being made. The girl and the dragon rested, unaware that their fragile bond would soon be tested by the fury of an enemy who would not stop until both were destroyed. The valley was quiet, but the silence was heavy. The dragon lay deep inside his crystal cave, his great body curled around the girl as she rested. Warm light from the crystals bathed them both, creating a strange peace. Outside, however, the aliens did not share this peace. They gathered in the shadows, whispering in sharp voices, their faces twisted with unease. Never before had the dragon refused a sacrifice. Never before had he chosen to protect instead of kill. Their leader, tall and cruel, slammed the butt of his spear against the ground. Sparks lit the circle of warriors. This cannot stand. The beast has betrayed us. Worse, it has chosen a human child. Fear rippled through the group, but anger followed quickly. She is weak, one of them spat. She cannot control the beast. Yet it obeys her. Another hissed, his eyes glowing with dread. If one human child can change the dragon, what happens if more humans learn this secret? Our rule will fall. They will rise against us. Their voices grew louder, feeding on fear. The leader raised his hand, silencing them. We will end this before it spreads. The girl dies. The dragon dies with her. Prepare the hunters. At dawn we strike. The crowd murmured in agreement, though fear still clung to their words. Unseen by them, the girl had crawled close to the edge of their camp. She pressed herself against the stones, listening with wide eyes. Her legs still hurt, but she forced herself to stay silent. Each word she heard sank into her heart like ice. They would come for her. They would come for him. Her breath shook as she backed away from the camp. The night was cold, but fear made her shiver harder. She stumbled over roots and stones, but she never stopped until she saw the faint glow of crystals ahead. The cave was waiting. The dragon lifted his head when she entered. His golden eyes locked on her trembling figure. He could smell the fear rising from her skin. She fell to her knees beside him, her chest rising in heavy breaths. She pressed both hands against his scales and whispered urgently. They are coming. They want to kill you. They want to kill me too. The dragon gave a low growl, fire flickering from his throat. His wings shifted, brushing against the walls of the cave. The sound of his rage rolled like thunder. The girl pressed her forehead against him, tears sliding down her cheeks. I do not want to lose you. You saved me. I will not let them take you away. The dragon bent lower, his golden eye meeting hers. He let out a deep sound, softer than before, as if to calm her. She felt the vibration through her bones. Her tears slowed, replaced by something else. Courage. She wiped her face and nodded. Then we fight together. The dragon rumbled again, his fire glowing brighter. The crystals around them pulsed with light, as if answering his call. The cave seemed alive, ancient power stirring in its depths. The girl touched one of the glowing stones. It hummed under her hand. Strange warmth traveled into her skin, filling her chest with strength she had never known. She gasped, pulling her hand back, but the light did not fade. It lingered, faint and steady, as if marking her. The dragon watched, his gaze deep and unreadable. He seemed to know what the crystals had given her. Outside, the aliens sharpened their weapons. Their voices rose in cruel chants, echoing across the valley. Their fear had turned into fury, and their fury into bloodlust. The girl turned back to the dragon, her small hands clenched tight. They think I am weak. They think you can be destroyed. But they are wrong. The dragon's wings stretched wide, filling the cave with shadows and light. Fire lit his chest, burning brighter than before. His roar shook the mountains, a warning that reached every ear in the valley. The aliens paused in their chants. Some shivered. Some stepped back. Yet their leader snarled and raised his spear to the sky. Let the beast roar. Tomorrow it will fall. The girl stood beside the dragon, her fear replaced by determination. She was only 11, yet she felt older, stronger. She had been thrown as a sacrifice. Now she would stand as a defender. The night ended with the valley trembling under the dragon's cry. Both sides prepared, knowing dawn would bring war. The first light of dawn crept over the valley. Mist clung to the ground, heavy and cold. The air carried the sharp scent of fire, though no flames yet burned. The girl stood at the entrance of the dragon's cave. Her heart pounded, but her eyes were steady. She had tied strips of cloth around her injured leg, though pain still throbbed with every step. Behind her, the dragon's golden gaze glowed like two suns in the shadows. The silence broke with the sound of horns. The aliens marched from the far cliffs, their tall frames cutting through the mist. Rows of spears caught the light, and war drums thundered in rhythm with their steps. The girl's throat tightened. For a moment, fear gripped her. But she felt the warmth of fire behind her, and she whispered to herself, "You are not alone. You will not run." The dragon stepped forward. His wings unfolded with a sound like thunder, shaking the stones beneath them. The mist swirled away, revealing his massive body shining in the morning light. The aliens paused at the sight, but their leader shouted, lifting his spear, "Kill the beast! Burn the human with it!" A roar shook the valley, drowning his words. The dragon launched into the sky, wings striking the air with power that sent dust and stones flying. Fire burst from his throat, arching across the field. The aliens scattered, their chants turning into screams. The girl stood at the cave's edge, gripping a shard of glowing crystal she had taken from within. The stone pulsed faintly in her hand, as if alive. She did not know how to use it, but she felt its strength beating with her heart. The dragon swooped low, his claws tearing through machines the aliens had dragged into battle. Their spears shattered against his scales. Fire swept across their ranks, scattering them like leaves in a storm. But the aliens were many, and they did not flee. Their leader raised his weapon, glowing with strange energy. He aimed it at the dragon's chest, and a blast of light shot forward. The dragon roared as the force struck him, shaking his body mid-flight. His wings faltered, and he crashed to the ground, sending waves of dust across the valley. The girl cried out and stumbled forward. "No!" The aliens cheered, rushing in with spears and blades. The dragon struggled to rise, blood seeping between his scales. Without thinking, the girl raised the glowing crystal high. Its light flared brighter, pulsing like fire. She pointed it toward the alien ranks, and a wave of heat burst outward. The closest warriors screamed as the air itself pushed them back. The ground cracked beneath their feet. The dragon's eyes turned toward her. In that moment, something passed between them, trust, pride, and a promise. He roared again, this time stronger, fire blasting in every direction. The girl ran toward him, stumbling over the torn earth. She reached his side, pressing her small hands against his wounded scales. The crystal glowed brighter, its warmth flowing into him. His wounds closed, fire flaring hotter inside his chest. The aliens faltered. Their leader's face twisted with rage. "Do not stop! Kill them both!" But fear had begun to spread. The dragon rose higher, his fire shaking the sky. The girl climbed onto his back, gripping his scales with all her strength. She felt the heat of his power surge through her. Together they struck. The dragon swept across the valley, wings scattering enemies like broken toys. His fire carved through machines and soldiers alike. The girl held the crystal aloft, guiding his strikes, her voice ringing out with commands she had never known she could give. "There! The machines! Burn them! Strike the cliff!" The dragon obeyed, his fire exploding against the cliff face. Stones crashed down, blocking the path of retreat. The aliens' chants turned into cries of fear. By the time the sun rose high, the battlefield lay in ruin. Alien bodies and shattered weapons littered the valley. The few survivors fled, their leader dragged away by his own soldiers, his voice promising revenge even as he vanished into the mist. The dragon landed near the cave, his chest heaving with heavy breaths. The girl slid from his back, her legs trembling. She leaned against his side, tears mixing with a tired smile. "You fought with me. And I fought with you." The dragon lowered his head, his golden eyes soft. He pressed his snout gently against her shoulder. She closed her eyes, feeling his warmth surround her. The first battle was over. They had won. But both knew this was only the beginning. Beyond the valley, alien forces would gather again, stronger and angrier. Yet for now, the bond between dragon and human had been sealed in fire and blood. The valley lay in silence after the battle. Smoke curled into the morning air, carrying the bitter smell of burned weapons and broken machines. The dragon rested near the entrance of the cave, his chest rising slowly, his body scarred but strong. The girl sat beside him, her hands still gripping the crystal. Its glow had faded to a faint light, but its warmth lingered in her palm. She leaned against the dragon's side, exhausted yet unwilling to close her eyes. She whispered softly, her voice trembling. "We survived. But they will come again. I know it." The dragon rumbled low, a sound that was neither roar nor growl. It felt like reassurance. His golden eyes watched the valley, unblinking. When the girl finally stood, her legs weak beneath her, she felt a pull from deeper inside the cave. The crystals along the walls shimmered faintly, their light flickering as though calling her. She hesitated, then turned to the dragon. "Something is waiting inside. Do you feel it too?" The dragon lifted his head. For a moment, he stared into the glowing tunnel, then gave a slow nod. His wings shifted, stirring the air, and he followed as she walked into the heart of the cave. The passage opened into a vast chamber. Crystals of every color jutted from the walls and ceiling, casting shimmering light across the stone floor. At the center stood an altar carved from black rock, its surface marked with ancient symbols. The girl's eyes widened. "What is this place?" She stepped closer, her small hands tracing the strange carvings. The symbols glowed faintly beneath her touch, answering her presence. The air grew warmer. The dragon lowered his head beside her, his gaze fixed on the altar, as if it was something he had known all his life. The girl leaned over the markings, her voice trembling as she read the simple shapes that formed before her eyes. They were not written in her language, yet somehow she understood. Humans and dragons were once bound as one. Guardians of fire. Defenders of the sky. Together they fought against darkness. Together they brought balance. Her voice broke. "So it is true. We were never enemies." The dragon let out a deep sound, his chest vibrating like distant thunder. He moved closer, pressing his snout against the altar. The carvings glowed brighter, filling the chamber with light. The girl shielded her eyes, but the warmth felt familiar, like the crystal in her hand. Visions flickered in her mind. She saw humans riding on the backs of dragons, their voices raised in unison. She saw fire cutting through the darkness of alien machines, and the earth trembling under the power of their bond. She saw victory, and then she saw betrayal. The visions shifted. Humans fell. Dragons were hunted. And in time, both were broken apart, their history buried, their memory erased. She gasped and stumbled back, her small body trembling. "They took everything from us. The aliens made sure we forgot. But you remembered." Tears filled her eyes as she turned to the dragon. His golden gaze was steady, burning with ancient fire. She pressed her hand against his scales, her voice soft but certain. "You chose me because I was not afraid. But it is more than that. This was always meant to happen. We are not sacrifice and beast. We are partners." The dragon closed his eyes, lowering his head until his snout touched the ground at her feet. The gesture was not of a master, but of an equal. The girl fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the weight of destiny pressing on her small shoulders. She whispered through her tears, "I am only 11. How can I carry this? How can I fight for all of us?" The crystals pulsed again, and the vision of fire and sky returned. Humans and dragons together, rising higher, stronger than their enemies. She heard voices calling from the light. Not words, but hope. The dragon's breath washed over her, warm and steady. She realized she was not alone. She never would be. Wiping her tears, she stood. She looked small beneath the towering crystals, but her voice carried with new strength. "Then I will fight. Not just for me. For humanity. For you. For what was lost." The dragon roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. The crystals blazed with light, as if the cave itself was alive again. Far outside, the aliens heard the roar. It rolled across the valley, filling their hearts with dread. They knew something had awakened inside the cave. something they could not control. And their fear turned to fury. The aliens did not wait long. By nightfall, their full army filled the valley floor. Thousands marched in rows, their weapons glowing with cruel energy. Machines rolled forward, taller than trees, their claws sparking with fire. Drums pounded through the night, a promise of destruction. At the mouth of the cave, the dragon stood ready. His wings stretched wide, fire burning in his chest. Beside him stood the human girl, small but unshaken. Her crystal pulsed with light, answering the dragon's fire. She looked down at the enemy below and whispered to him. "They think we are weak. Let us show them they are wrong." The dragon's golden eyes burned brighter. With one great leap, he soared into the night sky, carrying her on his back. The wind tore through her hair, but she held tight, her heart pounding with courage instead of fear. The aliens shouted as the dragon roared above them. Arrows of fire and beams of light shot into the sky, but the beast dodged with grace, his wings cutting through the air like blades. He unleashed a river of flame, burning the front lines of the alien army. The girl raised the crystal high. Its glow spread across the battlefield, blinding the enemy for a moment. She pointed to their machines. "There! Strike the machines!" The dragon dove low. Fire poured from his jaws, melting metal and shattering engines. The ground shook as the machines collapsed one by one. But the aliens were many, and they would not retreat. Their leader raised a weapon larger than any before, a spear of black stone glowing with red energy. He hurled it toward the sky. It struck the dragon's side, and he roared in pain, his body twisting as he fell toward the earth. The girl screamed, gripping his scales as they crashed into the ground. Dust and smoke rose high, hiding them from sight. The aliens cheered, believing the beast was finished. But the dragon pushed himself up, blood dripping between his scales. His wings trembled, yet he stood tall. The girl climbed down and pressed the crystal to his wound. Light flowed into him, sealing the flesh, though the strain left her gasping for breath. The leader marched forward, his eyes blazing. "You cannot win, child. You are nothing." The girl stepped in front of the dragon, her small body glowing with the crystal's light. Her voice rang clear across the valley. "I am not nothing. I am human. And I am not alone." The dragon roared behind her, the sound shaking the mountains. Fire burst from his chest, brighter and hotter than ever before. The light of the crystal joined his flames, weaving together in a storm of power. Together they rose, dragon and child, bonded by trust and destiny. The girl pointed forward, and the dragon charged. The battle turned. Fire swept across the valley, shattering weapons and scattering soldiers. The crystal's light cut through the darkness, burning away fear. The aliens screamed as their leader fell, consumed by fire and flame. When the smoke cleared, silence fell over the battlefield. The alien army was broken. The survivors fled into the night, leaving the valley in ruins. The dragon landed at the edge of the battlefield, his chest heaving, his body scarred but victorious. The girl slid from his back, her legs trembling, her face pale with exhaustion. Yet her eyes shone with pride. She placed her hand on his snout and whispered softly, "We did it! We won!" The dragon lowered his head, his golden eyes filled with warmth. He pressed his snout against her hand, sealing their bond not just with fire, but with trust. The valley was silent now, but it was no longer a place of fear. It was a place of hope. The girl stood tall, her voice clear though she was only 11. "This is the beginning. Humanity will rise again, with dragons at our side." The dragon roared one last time, his cry echoing into the heavens. It was not a roar of hunger or rage. It was a roar of victory. And the story of the human child and the dragon would be told for generations, as the day when weakness turned into strength, and sacrifice became destiny.